Okay, so are you ready for a wild one?
Always.
Today we're diving deep into a story. It's about family, loyalty, and some serious real estate drama. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Sounds intriguing.
This is the story of Darren Gee.
Oh, yeah, I know him.
Yeah, a former Liverpool hard man, and his younger brother, Ian.
Okay.
You might remember Darren from our previous deep dive into the underworld.
Right.
Yeah, this time we're peeling back the layers. We're going to uncover a tale of, like, trust, betrayal, and those complicated ties that bind families,
Especially when big money is involved.
Especially when, large sums of money are involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a classic story, really. Full of twists and turns. We'll be unpacking an interview Darren did. It was on the Scouse Sit-Off YouTube channel, so we're getting, like, his firsthand account of how things went down.
And let me tell you, he does not hold back.
I bet.
Oh, no. Darren, he starts by setting the scene, right? He's headed to jail.
Okay.
And he needs someone he can trust to, like, manage his affairs.
Right. Makes sense.
Enter Ian, his younger brother. So far, so good, right?
Seems straightforward enough.
Well, it's about to get interesting. Because Darren doesn't just hand over some spare change. He entrusts Ian with his cafe, cash flow. And get this, something he calls Graft phones.
Graft phones. Now, Graft phones might not mean much to you.
Oh, me?
And me neither. But based on the context, we're talking burner phones or something.
Okay.
Likely used for business dealings that Darren wanted to keep under the radar. And that detail right there, it speaks volumes. Darren's not just handing over the keys to, like, a legitimate business. There's an underlying layer of risk and possibly even illegal activity.
Right. It makes you wonder what Darren was really involved in, but also the level of trust he had in Ian at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's huge. He's basically saying, here's my world, brother. Take care of it. Little did he know.
Oh, boy.
But before we jump ahead, let's talk about a stroke of luck. Or maybe it's fate. Because while Darren's in jail, Anfield Stadium.
It's in the Liverpool Football Club home turf.
Yeah. For those of you who aren't familiar, it undergoes a major redevelopment project.
Okay.
Big changes happening.
Right.
Yeah. And wouldn't you know it, Darren's Cafe, it's smack dab in the middle of the compulsory purchase zone. Now, this means the government basically forces Darren to sell the property to make way for the redevelopment.
Wow. Okay.
And it's not a bad deal for him.
Oh, yeah. How much are we talking?
That initial 50 grand he invested in the cafe, the government buys him out for a cool 190,000 pounds.
That's a hefty chunk of change.
Right. But here's the kicker. The money doesn't go directly to Darren. It goes to the guy holding the purse strings, Ian.
Uh-oh.
And that's where this story takes a turn from simple brotherly duty to something much more complex.
Right. Because what does Ian do? Does he sit on the cash? Wait for Darren to get out?
I think we already know the answer to that.
Not a chance. He sees an opportunity, and boy, does he run with it. Ian starts investing that money, specifically in property. His first purchase, flats above an old off-license and shop on Domingo Grove.
Interesting.
It's a savvy move, really. He's taking advantage of the real estate boom in the area. But hold on, because this is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's about to get interesting, isn't it? I can feel it.
Well, it definitely does. From Domingo Grove, Ian sets his sights on Robson Street, snatching up 2 shops right next to a place called Lucky Fur, some sort of mini market, from what I gather. He merges the 2 shops, transforms them into another off-license, and get this, doesn't even bother stocking it.
Wait, what? Why go through all that trouble if you're not going to sell anything? That doesn't make any sense.
That's what's so clever about it. See, the real money wasn't in selling crisps and fizzy drinks.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
It was upstairs. He converts the space above the shop into 6 separate flats. And then, in a move that screams business acumen, sells the entire block, shops and flats, to a chain called Kelly's Wines. Have you heard of them?
Kelly's Wines.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they've got a few locations around here.
Exactly. Local off-licenses popping up everywhere. And that's how that 190 grand from the cafe sale mushroomed into serious cash. Ian went from caretaker to real estate mogul in the blink of an eye.
Wow, so he's like a property tycoon now. From cafe owner to real estate mogul, that's quite the transformation.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
But he doesn't stop there, does he?
Not even close. Ian's got momentum now, and he's not afraid to use it. He goes on to start not just 1, but 2 more businesses.
Okay, now I'm really impressed. So we've got property. What else does he get into?
So he starts a company called M&J Maintenance.
M&J Maintenance.
Yeah, focusing on home improvements and construction.
Oh, okay. A natural fit, really, given his property ventures.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then there's Tight security.
Tech security.
A security firm.
Ah, so tapping into, like, the family business a little bit.
In a way, yeah. It makes sense given Darren's background, although it seems Ian preferred to keep things more above board in that world.
Right, yeah. And remember Darren saying Ian was smashing it?
Mhm.
We're not talking about some small-time operations here. These were legitimate, thriving businesses.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which begs the question, what happened? Because it sounds like things took a bit of a nosedive at some point.
They did. They did. And this is where this story takes another fascinating turn.
Okay.
Darren mentions a conflict with these two guys, Pancake Spiff,
Pancake Spiff.
yeah, and Mark Stiles.
Apparently they were also involved in the security business.
Right.
And weren't too happy about Ian's success. It's like the saying goes, the higher you climb.
The further you fall.
Well, something like that. Maybe more like the more people try to pull you down.
Yeah, jealousy rears its ugly head.
Yeah.
So what did they do? Try to muscle in on Ian's territory?
In a way, yeah. Darren says they went around to Ian's clients and basically blackmailed them into dropping his security contracts.
Oh, wow.
And signing up with them instead.
Wow. That's ruthless.
Yeah?
And effective, it sounds like. Darren says they destroyed his security business.
Yeah.
But something about that seems strange to me. If Ian built up a solid client base, how easy was it for these guys to just come in and dismantle everything?
You've hit on a crucial point. It makes you wonder if Ian's business was as squeaky clean as it seemed. Maybe there were vulnerabilities, shady dealings under the surface, something Spiff and Stiles were able to exploit.
A chink in the armor.
Precisely. This blackmail, was it purely intimidation? Or were Spiff and Stiles playing hardball, exposing something that was already there?
Right.
We don't know for sure, but it definitely adds a layer of intrigue.
Yeah, it does make you think.
Yeah.
So we've got Ian starting with a cafe and some mysterious Graft phones, building a mini empire while Darren's behind bars. But what's going through Darren's mind this whole time? I mean, he is the one who handed over the reins. He must be expecting a nice welcome home present, right?
Yeah, that's where the story shifts from business and ambition to something much more personal.
Okay.
The unspoken expectations within families, the weight of loyalty, and what happens when those things collide with money.
And as we'll see, sometimes those collisions can be messy. It's that whole blood is thicker than water thing, right? You just assume family's going to have your back, especially in situations like this.
Absolutely. There's that inherent trust, that unspoken agreement that you're in it together.
Right.
But as we'll see with Darren and Ian, those agreements aren't always so clear-cut, especially when you throw a whole lot of money into the mix.
So Darren's expecting like a good chunk of change waiting for him, enough to get back on his feet, maybe even start investing himself. Did he ever say what he had in mind?
He did, yeah. He tells Ian he needs a lump sum when he gets out.
Okay.
And a year before his release, he starts pressing for details.
Makes sense.
Even warning Ian about the complications of having money tied up in property.
Oh, okay. So he's thinking ahead.
Yeah, he's thinking ahead, making sure there's some cash readily available.
Smart move. He's not asking for the moon.
Yeah.
Just his fair share.
You're right.
So what's Ian's response?
At first, he seems completely on board.
Okay.
He reassures Darren the money will be ready, even going so far as to say he's talking to the bank, getting things sorted, a classic case of, don't worry, big brother, I've got this.
Right, right.
But as the months tick by, those promises, they start to ring a little hollow.
Uh-oh. I've got a bad feeling about this. What happens? Does the money dry up?
It's worse than that. Instead of a lump sum, Darren starts getting these increasingly smaller payouts.
Oh, no.
50 grand at first, then it drops to 5 grand a month, then 3, then back up to 4. It's erratic. Almost like Ian's doling out an allowance. Not a share of a fortune that was built, let's not forget, on Darren's initial assets.
That's just low. And you mentioned earlier how this story gets really personal. I remember Darren talking about their mother. That really stuck with me.
That's the detail that really drives home the sense of betrayal. Here's Ian, living large, multiple houses, fancy cars, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And meanwhile, their own mother is stuck in a rundown house. Can't even afford to fix her windows.
Wow. You'd think he'd at least take care of his own mother. That's just cold. So how does Ian justify all of this? What reason does he give for keeping Darren in the dark and holding on to the lion's share of the wealth?
Well, according to Darren, Ian eventually drops this bombshell. I took 9 years for you.
9 years. What's that supposed to mean?
He's referring to a shooting that was meant for Darren, related to someone named Craig Barr.
Okay.
Ian was caught in the crossfire, got injured.
So he's claiming he deserves all that money because of something that happened almost a decade ago. Come on, that's a stretch.
It is a wild justification, but remember, we're only getting one side of the story.
Right. Of course.
We don't know what was going through Ian's mind all those years, how he processed the trauma of that shooting, the guilt, maybe even resentment. In his mind, those injuries, that act of being caught in the crossfire, it might be inseparable from the business dealings, from the money itself.
That's a good point. It's like their versions of reality have completely diverged.
Hmm.
What was Darren's reaction when Ian hit him with that justification?
He was devastated. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the violation of trust, the feeling that his own brother had chosen wealth over family. Darren ultimately makes the difficult decision to cut ties with Ian and the entire family, really.
Wow.
He says he's better off without them. That money changed them into something he no longer recognizes.
That's heartbreaking. It makes you wonder, does money really change people that drastically? Or does it just amplify who they already were?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. But what we can take away from Darren and Ian's story is that family dynamics are complex, especially when large sums of money are involved. Those unspoken agreements, the expectations we have of each other, they can easily become blurred, leading to misunderstandings, resentment, and sometimes, as in this case, complete estrangement.
So it's a shame it had to end this way.
It really is.
But it's definitely a story that makes you think about your own relationships, your own values, and what you do if faced with a similar situation. Well, that was quite a deep dive.
It certainly was a tale of brotherhood, betrayal, and a whole lot of bricks and mortar.
It really makes you appreciate the importance of clear communication, especially with family, and the dangers of letting money come between loved ones. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, and a special thanks to you for your insights. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Until next time.